Good day to all our members, writers, creatives in Africa and beyond Africa. I want to welcome you to a conversation on PAWA, Pan-African Writers Association. It's an unusual conversation because all the time our programs have always featured on issues of literature, genres of literature, that is poetry, fiction, or other activities that go with writing of literature and how it affects the jobs of writers all over Africa and beyond Africa. But today, we will do something unusual. I have with me Professor Bill Indy, who is the current coordinator of the Writers of African origin in the Diaspora, WAFORD, which is an affiliate of PAWA. Between the two of us, we want to have a conversation on something that recently happened, and that has to do with the recent visit of the president of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, to the U.S. President, President Trump. And of course, many of you must have read a lot about this encounter which took place at the Oval Office between the U.S. President, Donald Trump, and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. And a lot of things happened. And people have given different interpretations. So some people who have said that, President Ramaphosa displayed a masterful diplomatic habits to counter the provocative behavior of his host. And then other parts of the press and writers say, oh no, the president of South Africa shouldn't have made that visit. And that they saw the visit as a big blow to African pride. Then some will say, no. The president of South Africa went to the US to bargain for trade. They didn't go there to square up with any provocation. And as such, they thought that what President Ramaphosa did is very mature. In fact, let me read some that came from a South African press. And he said, it reads, he said, President Ramaphosa and his team showed the world our country's intelligence, maturity, and insight in matters of politics and trade. It was a great day for the relatively liberated world. Our country's reputation has not known this sort of human credibility and civilization internationally since possibly Mandela's era. Then other things followed. People say, oh, our vice president, that is from South Africa, is a fox who doesn't shoot from the hip like a plethora of detractors demand. Thank God. To do that would be to play into the game. But our president Ramaphosa's allegiance is to 60 million plus South African citizens. Calmness and courtesy in the contorted face of an arrogant bully is a great trait of the South African delegation. Wonderful. So that is just to give you a background to some of the opinions. But like I said, we writers in Africa and of African origin all over the world just want to have this conversation. And so it's my pleasure to bring on board Professor Bill F. Indy, who is of a Cameroonian origin, but currently works at the Tuskegee University in the US. And he's the coordinator of WAFORD, and that is writers of African origin and in the diaspora. So, Professor Indy, over to you now.
Thank you, Secretary General Dr. Wale Okediran. It is indeed a pleasure that we're talking about this, we're having this conversation. I would just like the audience to remember, you did say we do things revolving around literature. Politics is not exclusive. Politics is an integral part of literature because our writings as Blacks and Africans are writings that revolve around what we've been through, what we are going through. There is no writing that comes, or no writing is done ex nihilo, that is out of nothing. Something inspires writing. And I'm very happy we're having this conversation. It is not a conversation to bash or to affirm or to laud. It is a conversation rather for us as writers to think critically and reflect on how a visit like the one between President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa and Donald Trump could have gone, and in a better way that will speak and shine the light to our own concerns. So I know you read excerpts of newspaper articles from South Africa and other news agencies lauding President Cyril Ramaphosa's calmness. Yes, we should applaud it. However, when I come into this conversation, the questions I have, which might be answered, you did mention that he came for trade. In the article, he came for trade. He could not have done X, Y, and Z. That's fine. But the question that keeps tickling my imagination is, would you be going to talk trade with somebody who less than 2 weeks before this visit has taken from your country a number of South Africans? I don't know how to qualify them, but they came claiming that they were asylees. They were fleeing from persecution in South Africa, and there had been a diplomatic heckle between South Africa and the US. So the question is, it is okay to talk to somebody with whom you're having a problem, but you have to think through the problem before sitting one-on-one with the person. So I think of what we call in communication the Kairos moment. That is the opportune moment for a visit. This visit was not an opportune visit. It was not a visit that came when it should have come. And what transpired in the meeting, while it has its strong points, I think the detractors, I don't only think their concern was that that President Cyril Ramaphosa should have shot on the hip. No. You could deliver bitter pills and well coated with sugar, calmly and without any, and with a lot of assertiveness. Because what I'm driving at is President Cyril Ramaphosa, while being calm, did not exude the assertiveness that would have come with his position as president of South Africa, a founding member of BRICS. And we know BRICS is an economic, even if the world is not acknowledging it, BRICS is an economic powerhouse now. And as I'm talking to you, I'm just reflecting and thinking of what the sociologist Emile Durkheim will say in a situation like this. Because it was a situation where the cart of mechanical solidarity should have been pulled, meaning President Ramaphosa did not have to come to the table holding the shorter end of the leash. No, he should have come holding the longer end of the leash, knowing that he belongs to an economic bloc that controls almost 37% of the world's economy. While the West, with America and the European Union, they control 28 to 30%. So from every indication, he should have doffed his hat of a BRIC member and not coming to ask for handout or to beg, even if you're negotiating trade deals, right? Trade deals should not come at the expense of you not standing strong and even stronger. I'm not saying his performance was not strong. It was strong, but we expected a stronger and even the strongest performance from him. Not just by him coming to shout, but by him addressing very bigger issues. There were opportunities that he could have addressed bigger issues. He could have talked. When Donald Trump is telling, I don't think the US has any moral standing or leg on which to give lessons to other parts of the world when it comes to civil rights, oppression, because when you look at the situation of Black people in America from the time of slavery till date, I would just leave the audiences to react to what I'm saying. Because from the time of slavery till date, the situation has not changed that much for Black folks. And we can say with a lot of assertiveness that police brutality in the US targeting the Black person is very common. And even Donald Trump, during his first term in office, did not allow what is allowed in the US when others are doing it. That is peaceful protest. People protested peacefully in 2020 against the brutal killing of George Floyd, a young Black guy whose only crime was that he held a fake $20 bill. He was killed, and people took to streets protesting his death. But Donald Trump was quick to tear gas them, to get them off the streets by hook or by crook. And this is the person who wants to give us lessons about brutality against white farmers. Where was he or his father or his parents when apartheid was ravaging South Africa? When apartheid killed people, when he talked of brutality, I'm happy President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the issue that there is crime in every community, but the blacks suffer the most. But if you look at it in the US, while there is crime in every community, the blacks are disproportionately punished for crimes they might or might not have committed. And so I think with this point, we could carry the conversation. I just wanted to introduce my perspective in this conversation before we go further in depth with other things that might come up. But I just think President Cyril Ramaphosa really missed opportunities to address broader issues concerning the Black world, concerning his people, or even concerning South Africa per se. I am happy he did seize the opportunity. He did seize the opportunity to address his government policies. He talked about his government policies in very clear and no uncertain terms. However, from the preparation of the visit to the delivery, I think the preparedness would have been something worked on way better before he came to meet with his counterpart or his US counterpart, Donald Trump. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Andy.
Thank you.
Well, people regarding the preparedness, some of the supporters of the president's trip also refer to the fact that on the entourage of Professor Ramaphosa was one or two white cabinet members of the South African government, and they were allowed to say a few words to counter President Trump's utterance regarding the condition of whites in South Africa. So people said, well, he had on his team those people to speak for him, and also that President Trump was the one who was, to use the word, mischievous by bringing out irrelevant documents, old newspaper cuttings that had nothing to do with South Africa. They said they were traced to Democratic Republic of Congo and a few other things. So I think the bottom line is that President Ramaphosa was the gentleman, he was the diplomat who played by the rules versus a president that literally abused him and used all kind of underhand tactics to attack his host. And the question was that having found himself in such a situation, there are two options left to President Ramaphosa: either to calmly handle the situation to avoid a blow-up, or to walk out of the meeting, a situation where he might have been considered to be undiplomatic. So how do you handle this? If you are Ramaphosa, how will you have behaved on that day?
All right. Thank you for asking this question. But before I address the question, let me take a step back. In my intervention, I insisted on the issue of preparedness. And when I talk of preparedness, I'm looking at understanding the opponent you have before you, understanding the person you are going to meet. So much so that nobody, having known Donald Trump for the past 8 or 9 years, not even going back to when he started his political career. He started his political career by scoring points, trying to denigrate or tell the world that Obama was not American. Actually, that was not telling the truth. We know he's a compulsive liar. If you are going to meet a compulsive liar, you should prepare that such lies would come up, and you should be prepared to counter them. And I'm saying this, there is just so much we could talk about. If you look at Donald Trump's career, when he insisted Obama was not American, it is what we call in the US dog whistle. It was a dog whistle to the white supremacists, to the racist Americans, to understand that at the time of the writing of the US Constitution, African Americans or the recently freed slaves were never considered whole human beings. They were considered 3/5 of a human being. So it was his way of saying, I would be able to fix this issue and never let this mistake happen because for a black man to have been president in this country, to him, was a mistake. And he does not see any black man sitting before him as an equal. So when President Ramaphosa was coming, I would have first thought of being prepared to face a bully, somebody who does not miss the opportunity to bully. And he wants to bully anybody, especially when that person is of African origin or ancestry. So now to the question, how would he have handled it? That is why I said, given the situation and the unpreparedness with which the president came, he handled it excellently well. And the idea of the having the cabinet members speak for him, he could have made the point himself, not only say they would speak for themselves, their voices should have come as a supporting voice to his assertiveness, to his letting the world know that South Africa is a rainbow nation. It is a nation with people of diverse origin, people who have had their own issues, even within a family dynamics. Brothers and sisters have problems. They resolve it, they still live together, they are happy, and things like that. So it is not different with South Africa. And when I talk of preparedness, we realize Donald Trump is somebody, okay, who doesn't pay attention to facts. But the only way Donald Trump could pay attention to facts is when you counter him with facts that concern him. You counter him with facts that concern him. A sitting president who ordered people to go to the Capitol and kill his vice president, is that presidential? A president who turns around, okay, and on a whim will request that the military, or would think that he could use the military on a whim. A president that is put him in front of his own, give him his own peers. Why Donald Trump has thrived with his attitude is that nobody has actually given him the taste of his peers. And that is why I talked about missed opportunity. And I believe that if that opportunity was actually seized and utilized effectively, hey, we will not be having this conversation. So I still applaud President Cyril Ramaphosa for his being calm, but I will not say he was assertive to the point where he made his point. Because one of the only things that has bailed this situation out is that the media did not repeat Donald Trump's lies. Let's think for a second. A situation where Donald Trump said this, and the media, like some of the right-wing media in the US, they reinforce the narrative. What would that have done to the image of South Africa? And I speak as the WAFORD coordinator, and I just want to say this, that when our leaders from Africa come out here, how they present themselves and how they are perceived reinforces how they perceive us in the diaspora, and we care about the way they perceive us. So that is why I am talking of assertiveness, because that was an opportunity for our leader to stand the ground without creating a diplomatic scandal and making a point about his stance, his nation, the people who he is ruling for. I know I'm saying this. One of the things you did in your in your preamble read, one thing you did read was that his allegiance is to 60 million South Africans. I would like that journalist to understand that his allegiance is not only to 60 million South Africans. His allegiance is to more than 1 billion Africans. So is the allegiance of any president on the African continent. His allegiance is not, because it is this narrow vision of our Africanness, of our Pan-Africanness, that we want to live in silos, that allows for smaller nations, I would say smaller nations like France, to have dominion over bigger nations and stuff. So I think that allegiance, he owes it to all of us. And I want to take this opportunity for our viewers. When President Cyril Ramaphosa was still a union leader, his visit to the US was at Tuskegee University. He visited Tuskegee University. So he visited Tuskegee University because the ruling party in South Africa, ANC, has its origins here at Tuskegee. So when I talk with a lot of passion, like somebody who understands the root and origin of the founding of ANC, which was not just to seek and gain independence for South Africa, but to gain independence for South Africa and continue the conquest until Africa is ruled by Africans from Cape to Cairo. Thank you. You're muted.
Thank you for such a memorable intervention. Not many people who realize that historical background between Tuskegee and South Africa, particularly President Ramaphosa. Yes, before we round up, I just want to point out another interesting comment from a journalist who said, because you are saying that you keep mentioning the need to be assertive, and people are saying that there's no way you can be assertive in front of a personality like President Trump without being dragged to his level. That is, both of you going through a shouting match because he is not somebody who has that kind of courtesy when handling diplomats. And the fellow, when he was summarizing his own submission, he said that President Ramaphosa has offered his contemporaries, especially those who mistake shouting in the meeting room for effective statecraft, a profound lesson in the fine art of diplomacy. Yeah, so people are still hailing Ramaphosa for his calmness, for his uh, ability to contain the provocation of President Trump, and which you feel or you interpret as not being assertive. And the fellow here is saying, look, there's no way you can be assertive with Trump without being dragged to his level, and that Ramaphosa should be commended for failing to fall, fall for the plow. I mean, Trump's attempt to turn him into his counterpart. Do you agree with this, or you think Ramaphosa wasn't assertive enough?
Look, I still stand on that point that when you're lauding his calmness, if that calmness had faced Donald Trump one bit, because when I talk of assertiveness, I did talk about missing the opportunity to address broader issues, to give Trump the pills he is trying to give people. He is trying to because with somebody like that, let me rephrase everything I'm saying. Because when I mention preparedness, I strongly believe that South Africa has a huge number of psychologists who could have served the interest of the government by doing an analysis, a character analysis, a portraiture of this guy, and giving the president insights on how to handle these lies, telling him, being assertive without shouting. My thing is not shout. You don't have to be dragged down to a squabble with him, because as the proverbial saying goes, right? Pigs like wrestling. But if you wrestle with pigs, they drag you to the mud. When they get out of the wrestling match, even if you win, they will be happy because they see themselves dirty, and you will not be. So, understanding that, I'm not going to wrestle with you, pig, because I know what you want, but I'm going to show you exactly what you want, and that what you want is wrong. And this is where my disagreement is with the fact that he could not have resisted. It means that statement you made is telling me that Donald Trump is a character or an individual that surpasses any diplomatic effort, any human being handling him and being assertive without going down his level. And that is not a position I want to accept, because I understand that everybody, no matter how powerful you are, as long as you are human, there is somebody who can still stand up to you. The David and the Goliath moment is the moment I said was not seized. There was a David and a Goliath moment. And that moment, I did call it the Kairos moment, as they call it in communication. The Kairos moment was not seized. And that is where I would stand.
Well, as writers, our duty is to create order from disorder, and to also we see nuggets of opportunities from every catastrophe. Uh, so for us as African writers at home and diaspora, the way forward, as I see it, is to use this incident in our future writings,
Yeah.
whether in our poetry, whether in our fiction, drama, or film. In fact, I have a friend who is a film producer who has even approached me that we should put a script together on this Trump behavior and do a movie. So he's looking for a character that can act Trump. So if you know anybody in the US who looks like Trump, let us know. And
I'm very
so
certain. I'm very certain I'm not going to be the one who wants to act Trump, because to act him, you must have some of his meanness to want to be him.
So I think the next thing we're going to do is to call for contributions.
Yeah.
I don't know, you are the academician, you know how to couch all these beautiful phrases. We're going to call for contributions, poetry, anecdotes, and whatever, a collection of books on how not to treat your guests as a president. So it's our next project, and we're looking forward to how you're going to put this together. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of submissions. And don't be surprised if some people will support Trump. You know, writers try to play
No, well,
sometimes.
that's fine. We're
Yes.
not we're not against him having supporters. Let me bring a little bit of religion here. All right. We know the world, or the realm of spirituality is characterized by the good and the evil. And we in the physical world, we live following some precepts of that spiritual realm. In the spiritual world, the evil forces have their supporters here on earth. So it is the same that even if you and I as individuals, I don't want to use the word, but I use it in quotes because I don't hate anybody. But let's take hypothetically that if you and I as individuals hated Trump, that will not take away the support of other individuals. And as writers, when we write, we are not just out to reject the evil. We look at the evil, we analyze the evil, we talk about the evil, we bring it into our conversation because we want to conscientize. We are not bringing it because we support it. And we would also listen to the people who are supporting. Maybe they have justification of why they are supporting. Because even Satan had his reason for wanting to break away from heaven. Okay? And we don't need to reason with them, but we need to hear their story. And that is why this famous poem by Max Herman, Desiderata, there is a line there that I love so much that I always use to encourage my students when he says, listen to the dull and the ignorant, they too have their story. If you don't listen to the dull and the ignorant, you will not have their story. And your story would be what Ngozi Chimamanda Adichie calls the dangers of the one-sided narrative.
Right. Wonderful. So we got another blockbuster ahead of us. So on this note, all I have to say is to thank you, Professor Indy, for thinking outside the box. Because initially when you suggested this discussion, my mind was, oh no, it's like this is an open-ended issue. But just like you said, you have just quoted Chimamanda, we should not have a one-sided narrative. So we're going to throw open this debate in the next few weeks by calling for submissions from African writers at home and in diaspora in English, French, and Arabic to let us know their views through poetry, through short dramas, sketches, and all sort of things. And then we're going to have a compilation of that. You give us the title, and then we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you very, very, very much. So we will eventually be talking. You have a blessed and wonderful one. Today is Memorial Day in the US, and I had to take this time off just so that we have this conversation. Now I can go and
All
think
right.
about celebrating Memorial Day. You have a blessed and wonderful
Okay.
one. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Okay,
Bye bye.
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 Yes.